Live and the Hangout's live. Happy Friday, everybody. Today is September 19th, and you're hanging out with my community manager, the community built by, for, and managed by community managers. As always, you can chat along with us over on Twitter. We have a chat there at hashtag CMGR Hangout, where I know some of you are watching right now. So hi, everybody on Twitter. If you love what you're seeing today and you have a great idea for a future topic or you want to join us, head over to our website at mycmgr.com. There's a little link at the top that says participate. Click that, fill out the form, and that's how we keep these great topics and great, beautiful people hanging around here every Friday. So today's topic is onboarding new members. This isn't the first time we've talked about new community members, but it's a great topic, and it often resurfaces in those requests that I just talked about. If you check out our preview page for today, we have links to the 8 tips for onboarding new members by Adrian Spare and online community onboarding by Patrick O'Keefe, 2 articles that were recommended as great research to accompany today's talk. So in a second, we're going to have our panel introduce themselves, but today I'm also going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to ask everybody, what was your first community experience? And most likely that was probably before you became a community manager. So with that, always a shout out to Sarah Nagel and Carrie Keenan who help us over on Twitter. And starting with Patrick, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, my name is Patrick Ellen. I am the community manager for CloudLock, a cloud security-based company. We don't actually have a community yet. We're building it, so I'm running around like a crazy person. My first community experience, I will go with at the tender age of about 6. My mom joined me into the Star Wars fan club, and I proceeded to decide to write a bunch of letters to various Star Wars fan club people who you would think would be, awesome and great to talk to. But in turn, they all ended up being very angry Star Wars people who really disliked the Ewoks, like a lot. And that sort of colored my own impression of the Ewoks for the rest of my life. I generally hate Ewoks now. Should I go? Am I done?
Hey, Laurie.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
There you go.
Hi, everyone. This is Lori, and I handle all the social media for Movi, our video messaging app, and I am also the community manager as well. And this community that I manage is the first community experience for me, really. So I'm actually hoping to get a lot out of this and also share what I've learned just in the last few weeks.
Oh, Jessica, I think you might be hardware muted.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, there you go.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm the social media specialist and community manager for BigCommerce. And my very, very first community experience would be at the tender age of about 8 or 9 in AOL chat rooms, which I'm sure everybody has their own experiences in AOL chat rooms.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, I'm Hillary. I'm the community manager at the Community Roundtable. We're a private peer network for community practitioners, so we're constantly connecting folks around challenges, collaborating, and we also do research on advancing the discipline of community management. I'm gonna go offline and say my first community experience was being young, and my parents were very active in their church, so that was like where I first learned about community. And online, I'd say it was becoming a parent, and that was huge, being up at 3 a.m. and trying to figure out what the heck to do with this crying baby, and finding out there was a bunch of people online who were able to answer questions like that.
Hey everybody, my name is Dom Garrett. I am the social media specialist and community manager for CET International. We are an international foreign exchange student company. Super stoked to be here to wrap up the last month of my community manager, which makes me really happy. Been on every week, pretty cool. My first community experience, I'm going to say, really would be 4th grade. I had a great speech and campaign and actually was the president of our student council. And so, they knew that they could dominate with Dominic, and I would get their special snacks in the vending machine. And so having that little community was pretty fantastic.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christy Fedora, and I'm the former community manager for the #2 ranked B2B online customer communities of the top 106 by Leader Networks. I'm currently freelancing and doing some consulting work. I'm based in London, and my first community experience was, as Jessica said, at church. So I completely agree with that. And as Hillary said, also being a parent, joining an antenatal group was very important. But my real first experience was joining a sorority at my university, where I sort of understood a grouping and all the hierarchies and politics involved.
I guess I'm last. My name's Adrian. I'm the marketing manager at Vanilla Forums, and I also write about community and community management. And my first experience would probably, man, I sound like an old guy, I guess, BBSs, and I got knocked out for not following the rules. And that taught me a good lesson about following the rules, especially with the topic that we're talking about today.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm Brew, Director of Awesome with BTC Revolutions. I guess my first community experience also was back in kind of the BBS days. We had here in Milwaukee had something called OTE, Over the Edge. And I remember that. And then also, I think the first time I felt a ton of community was kind of in the mid-90s in college. Had a chat, like kind of a early chat called ICB, the Internet Citizens Band, and those guys even helped me on my tests when there were computers around. So that was I remember meeting up with people for the first time. We called them LAN parties instead of tweet ups, but that was anyways. So our first question, which I think I've already lost because you guys are chatting so much in the chat here. Here we go. So question 1, fire away. How do you optimize welcome emails to engage new community members? So who would like that?
I'd like to start with this one, please, if that's all right. In a previous community I was managing for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, we were kind of having a situation where we didn't have a true welcome to the community email. We had a lot of process emails that the community member received once they joined the community, but there was nothing to really say welcome in a warm, kind of friendly way. And so I sort of drafted that type of document, and what I wanted it to include were all the things that I would want to see when I was joining a community. Kind of history, not paragraphs and paragraphs, quick, dirty information, but to let you know that you're joining something that's quite special. So what's the history? What's the culture? What are the expectations? Why am I joining this group? Who else is in it? Maybe just like a little spotlight of one particular member and what they said that they really liked about being a member of the community. And also, most importantly, some contact details. So, who can you contact for this situation or that situation? And then finally, a call to action, because if you're not going to engage in the community, there's really no point in being in it. So how can we encourage people to do something once they get that email? And that was what I put together, and I think that it was working.
Awesome. Anybody else? Yeah, I'm really curious on the word optimize too, right? So does anybody have any experience in kind of, when I think optimizing emails, I think, optimizing for subject lines and, opens and things like that. I mean, are any of those techniques used for new welcome emails, do you think?
I think that they sort of have to be, just because when you're really looking at it, at least when it comes to, your open rates and things like that for emails, because people have been spammed so much, Even a welcome email, if it just says welcome or something like that, people are really wary of those types of things. And so I think that if you try to be very personal in them and sort of have a little bit of a call to action, really make them feel like they're part of it, and sound different than all of the other crap emails they have to go through, I think you're going to have a lot of luck there to actually engage with them, because there's not too much you're going to do with an email, but it should be enough to try to drive them to a place where you really can engage with them.
And our welcome emails, what is your experience, guys? Do you find the welcome emails being system generated, where it's by like a do not reply, or are they literally, even if it's system generated, are they still is the end user still able to hit reply to talk to you directly? I'd love to hear about that if anyone has experience or thoughts.
So I can jump on that one. We did have a user generated that, for the most part, upon accepting, they got an auto email. They were strangely all confused. They all thought it was coming from me, and the reply did come back to me. And we did do a little bit of optimizing with it, in that we did sort of an A/B test with it to say, during this part of the month we're going to do this specific email template. During this part of the month we're going to do this one, and see how many people actually respond back, see how many people actually think it is a real human talking to them. And then we reserved a certain number of them to do physical, real, live responses. Like, we would not send anything, and then I would craft something sort of on the fly. The ones that were crafted on the fly had a significantly better click-through rate across the board, because it read very, very human than the auto email, and the same sort of Marketo snafus that happen with a lot of them is that you'd have the first time you get a broken subject line, or the first time you get a broken salutation, it was done. They knew you weren't talking to them, and they would start moving back and not engaging anymore.
But Patrick, that's such a good point that you just made about making sure that it's human, and that actually what you're saying is tone of voice, having the right tone of voice for your audience to encourage them, so that they know that you are a real human, so that they don't feel that they've joined a really, a stiff group, or an uncomfortable group, or it needs to be warm, it needs to be welcoming, and it needs to have the right tone of voice. But the tone of voice needs to match your brand identity too. That's very, very important.
And it can't sound like it's from a group of marketers, right? Like a committee designed email. Sorry, Hillary, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just add, for folks who are managing smaller communities, maybe it's a collaboration or a community of practice, we take a really hands-on approach to community management, so we actively and personally reach out to every new member. And one of the things I try to do is lead with something. I take a look at their profile information, I maybe look them up on LinkedIn, and I try to figure out something in our network that would be helpful or interesting to them, and share that, as well as point them in the direction of an introduction thread, maybe point out someone in the community who would be interesting for them to meet. And I usually ask for an address and let them know that we would never be spamming them, but you might get a small delight and surprise type of gift in the mail. And I regularly send out cards to say welcome to the network.
That's huge. I mean, what I really heard there is that when you're reaching out and you're seeing what they're interested in and that kind of thing, you're providing value. And that's one of the biggest things for a community. People have so many different communities they could be a part of. There's not a shortage for that at all. So you need to make sure that from the get, in your welcome email or whatever you're sending out to them, you're providing them some sort of value that makes them feel, hey, this is where I want to put my time and my energy, because that's the biggest commodity, is people's time, and you need to make it worth it.
Absolutely, and not everybody is going to be able to, depending how big your community is, you're not going to be able to personally touch all new members, but you can take advantage of your super users, or if you have some sort of leadership program, that can be something you work with really active community members to make sure they're doing some outreach to new members or welcoming them by email as well.
And one thing I'd also want to point out, it also depends on the voice that you're coming from too. Like a B2B community versus a B2C community, you'll have to handle things differently. unfortunately, I guess the B2B communities tend to be a bit more difficult to personalize and get away with some of those things as well.
So question number 2 is has to do more about the when and the how and really the follow-up, right? So so you've touched the community member with this first email, and what happens after that? Do weeks go by, months go by? How do you reach back out to them? Do you do any kind of re-engagements, I guess?
So what we do is we hack a CRM system, and so when we have new members, they're entered into our CRM system, and I have a number of reminders that go out that say I have 3-month, 6-month, 9-month reminders, and so that way I get a little reminder, and even if it's just a quick email or an invite to an upcoming event, it like ensures that they're being touched at some point and they don't fall off, our radar.
Yeah, and I'll add, so for us, for example, and this is why I couldn't contribute much to the email question, because we don't do anything through email. Any contact that we do with like a new follower, a new community member, or a new user on Movi is all done through the app. So it's all a direct video message to that person, welcoming them to the system. And the biggest thing you can do is, I don't like to wait more than a week without at least reaching back with that person and saying, how have you been using it? Have you been enjoying it? Do you have any questions? You should probably follow so-and-so because you guys have this in common, and I think you would really get along. So I don't like to go any more than a week without just circling back and saying, what's your feedback, really? Is there anything I can help you with?
I really like that idea. The making connections is a really good thing. I found that really successful for myself, just in communities I've managed and that I've run as well, that if you can see 2 people and bring them together, it adds a little bit of a stickiness in that way. So it really a really good strategy.
Absolutely.
I'd like to go back to what Hillary just said a second ago, which is fantastic. She's got the ideal setup of being able to have infrastructure and technology to help her, reach out to people and notify her when someone hasn't been touched or engaged in a while. Not everybody has that, but one of the things that I implemented previously was a welcome event, like a live chat just like this. So everybody who would join within a 3-month period got invited to a one-time session to come and bring their questions and meet other newbies like themselves and contribute, sort of who they are. I wanted them to talk to each other. I just happened to be the facilitator of that conversation. So they could actually start identifying with one another. So exactly what Hillary and Adrian have said about connecting them together, because that's where they see the real value. But in this type of scenario, they all come in at the same level as being a newbie and maybe being slightly uncomfortable. And so they feel a little bit more open to chatting and being more transparent with one another, and that's a very nice thing.
That's a great idea. I'm making a note here, and I like how you do that like for every 3 months too. I think that's the perfect time because you're not bombarding them right away. I know that's important too, that you do not want to overwhelm a new community member and make them feel like they are new. So the best thing you can do is kind of group them together 3 months out and say, hey, this is your time now to introduce yourselves and kind of hash out what you think. And it's kind of your time to say what you feel, and I'm here to help you.
I love that too, because it really adds this level of mentorship throughout the community. Not that you're trying to just create tiers, but at the same time, you have a bunch of new community members that you're bringing together, and you're almost doing a little bit of a how-to this community. How can you get the most out of it? And then you have the opportunity then to bring in community members that have been there for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and really make them ambassadors for your community in a way of saying, hey, I'm the one that might be here, and I might have it on my lower third that I work for this company, but this person uses it every day and just is in this community. Let them show you what they did. And it really has a way of pulling everybody together and, making it a lot easier for you as a community manager too.
Absolutely. So we host live monthly new member events, and that's actually one of the things that's in that first email is I switch out a link that points them to the events page. So there's always a new member call that folks can get on. And it's a great way to scale your efforts because obviously you can't, it's really hard to do new member and really understand who your members are one by one, but at a live event you can touch a whole group of people, so it's a great idea.
All right, great stuff over on Twitter as well, and if you're watching, remember, go ahead and tweet at the myCMGR handle, and if you have a question for our panel, we're happy to bring in questions today, as always. Rolling on to question number 3 is, let's find it here. How do you, boy, this is typed a little bit weird. So
I think it's how do you acclimate a new community member?
How do you Thanks, Dom.
Hey, no problem.
How do you acclimate a new community member without making them feel overwhelmed?
I think someone touched on it before, that sort of the mentorship program is the way that I think is, it's the easiest solution because it automatically connects someone that's already engaged, someone that's already used to the functions and the structure of the community itself, and puts them in a position of saying, hey, listen, this is somebody that's in your vertical, this is someone that's in the exact same realm as you, they're working for a similar company, whatever it might be. Can you help show them the ropes? Mixed with the blatant theft of the Community Roundtable's new member event, which I've done, is that it ties it all together really nicely in that you have both sides of it. So you have something that they can put in their calendar and mark on and come back to and engage with everybody, theoretically, that's going to join that type of an event. And then at the second time, they have someone outside of sort of like the traditional, I'm the community manager, this is the way it should be done, more like, hey kid, come here, I'll show you the ropes kind of a thing.
Patrick, just following on from that, and it kind of pointing back to what Dominic was saying specifically about not wanting to create a hierarchy or tiers, but actually that's kind of what I did. And the reason that I did it specifically is because my community was multilingual. So, for example, I was running Europe, Middle East, and Africa. That's about 30 or maybe 60 some languages. So the important thing was that they knew that there was a person within their own language, didn't have to be in the same country, but definitely that had their own language, who was a long-term community member. And I asked these individuals across all of my geos to act as the local language community expert, and to sort of reach out to that individual and let him know that, look, welcome to the community in my own language, in your own language, and now, I'm here if you need anything. Even if the person never responded to that individual, he always had that sort of welcome, that sort of, I've got a fallback in case there is something that I need to know in my own language that I don't quite understand, and that maybe even someone is nearby within my own country.
Christy, I absolutely love that idea. Is this something you sort of just do on the fly, or is this like a formal program that you started for these folks?
It was definitely on the fly, but I sort of reached out to the ones that I knew were the best at being the most prolific on the forums, for example. So obviously my former company was English speaking. Everybody had to speak English who was in our community. Take that as you will, but there it was. But from a local level, if someone, for example, if we take Belgium or the Benelux region for an example, most people speak beautiful English there, but just knowing that I have a top-tier community leader there who's a great advocate, who's highly participatory on the forums, who's very knowledgeable, who's long-standing, and has a great reputation within the community, reach out to a new person coming in. That's just a lovely thing. It's a lovely feeling. And it is something that you can easily almost sort of gamify if you want. You could make, a new tier. You could assign some sort of point system if you wanted for the most helpful community leader advocate if you wanted to do that.
I love gamification. Number one, I just love the word gamification because it sounds fun, but I love that idea. It really, I don't know, it drives people. It's just it creates sort of that feeling in people that they want to move up and they want to do more, and it Maybe it's just me, but I love it. I'm a sucker for it.
Well, and what's great about Christy's example is that it's a win-win. Those members that she's touching, like they're getting value, like they're getting recognized, they're feeling important, they're probably more likely to engage. You're deepening your relationship with them, so it's good for the new members and it's good for some of those super users too. That's great. I love it, Christy.
Yeah, I love that too. It definitely is great for the new members and also for the people who may not be as new, but they still feel really invested in your service or the community especially. So when they feel like they can help another person and they kind of do the onboarding for you, that's a win-win situation, absolutely. They feel like there's a reason they're part of that community. It kind of reminds them why they joined it in the first place. And they feel like they have something to offer, so they kind of feel like they can team up with you a little bit to help out.
And just on the gamification front, Dom, just to give you another idea, one of the things I like to do when somebody does help me out in that kind of situation, and I find out about it later, I call them out on Twitter and I give them my gold star of the day or gold star of the week or gold star of the month. I mean, it's just such a silly thing, but people do love to feel that what they've done has been of value to someone else, and then getting recognition for it is just fantastic.
As soon as you said the word gold star, in my head I go, okay, now what do I have to do to be able to get that? I need to figure out how to do that. And if you have members in your community that'll do stuff like that, I mean, it'll be huge. Like and full disclosure, Lori from Movi, who's here on the panel, of course, I've been using Movi for probably about the last month and a half, and I just ended up getting as one of the screenshots in their new Google Play thing, and it was probably one of the greatest things ever. Like being able to, now I'm a screenshot in a Google Play Store, made me feel really good. So if you use your community members in all areas like that, it's that stickiness that we were talking about, and it's going to keep them.
All right, well, let's move us into question number 4 here, which is how can community members help engage a new member?
I'll jump in here. I think that the biggest thing is that it sort of starts from the top down. You as the community manager, if you're doing that sort of engaging in a very public fashion, for instance on Twitter, and you're blasting those people out, and you're using you're the main handle and saying, hey guys, let's welcome this person, then you're sort of setting up this precedent that it's like that idea of seeing somebody and bringing them over to the cool kids lunch table and being like, hey, here's all this people, meet my new friend Steve, and then you sort of just back out. It's like hosting a dinner party in that. Yeah. And so if you've really I think groomed your community in a way that's sort of built into the DNA, then that's something you have to just it'll be really easy. You don't have to do the introductions, and you could just like retweet what other people are saying to new community members and be able to sort of show everybody, hey, look, this person's doing that.
I am going to second that. It absolutely starts with the community manager and the type of example that you set for your community, whether it is in a forum or even on something in a Twitter chat. It comes down to directly the example that you lead by example. And then to add on to that, when you have the super users and the influencers who are very, very active, empower them. Reach out to them one-on-one and empower them to help others. That's how you're going to scale a community and scale new member onboarding as well, when you empower other people to be themselves and to be helpful and to provide value for others.
Yeah, Jessica, I love that. That's really, really cool. And actually, we created a whole forum thread on our forum about it was a really stupid topic, and instead of doing something like introduce yourself, which not a lot of people are keen on doing for whatever reason, we asked them what their favorite drink was. We had more engagement from that forum thread than from anything else we ever posted. Just something silly. What's your favorite drink? Everybody has a favorite drink, and everybody wants to share that information. So that's actually how you can get that ball rolling without being too corporate about it, I suppose.
Absolutely. One of the best threads I've ever started in a forum that I manage is literally are you an iPhone or an Android user? That gets people talking, and you'd be surprised by how many people chime in just on that basic question.
Android.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Android.
iPhone.
iPhone.
Also Android. I'm dumb.
That's right, guys.
No Blackberries.
No, I don't need any more paperweights.
So anybody who's watching right now over on Twitter, just pipe up if you have a BlackBerry. We won't judge. We just
Yes,
we're curious.
I'm totally judging.
We just want to see what it looks like.
Well, going back to what Christy was saying, the welcome thread, that's a really great idea to use. One that I saw being used as well was using like a welcome wagoner of the month, so that it also incentivized people in the community to also get engaged, and the members that were new could vote on who was most helpful for them that month, and then maybe give like a prize away. I don't know, a free subscription or a T-shirt or some nice little perk too. So it also gets some of the more experienced people to lurk a bit more in the welcome area and make people feel really welcome.
One thing that we started doing that was a total accident too was we gather for weekly happy hour chats. So sort of like an off-topic way for members just to gather and connect with each other in our team. And I was sort of feeling like I was always the one welcoming the new members on their page. Like, how many times can I send them an email and post? And so I just dropped in, it was like on a whim, like, does anyone want to help me welcome new members? And I had like 5 or 6 people there with me. And I threw some links out, and it was very spontaneous, and it was really awesome. It was really awesome to see the way the members stepped up and the way that they welcomed them and offered their 2 cents. Like, it was nice to see how they perceived us and what they were offering to help with. And so that's become a bit of a habit or a tradition, which has really worked. So sometimes you never know. It just, you stumble across some of these things that work.
Isn't it funny how much somebody will do if you just ask them? I mean, sometimes we forget that entirely, and we feel like as a community manager we have to take it all on and we are the only ones responsible for it. But most of the time, if you just ask, people are more than willing to help out. And like I said, if they feel especially like they're invested in your service, platform, app, whatever it is, they're more than willing to kind of help somebody along. And they like to do it.
I think it's important to remember that people naturally want to help, and people naturally have a desire to be helpful, especially if they're in a community. And also, don't be afraid to ask them. Don't be afraid to ask their thoughts or their opinions. A lot of clients are absolutely terrified. Well, if we ask them, that it'll be negative. Well, why would you think it would be negative? Why do you, if you don't want to have the conversation because you're afraid of it, don't start the conversation. So if you feel that you have a question you'd like to ask your community or you want some help with, just ask them most of the time. In fact, I can't remember a time I've ever asked anyone to do anything where they said no, unless they simply had a conflict. People want to help. That's why they joined the community in the first place. They want to be engaged.
I've done a lot of, most of my work has been in high-tech communities, which has a pretty high barrier to commenting. A lot of people are afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing, or they're going to say something that's looked upon potentially negatively or noobishly, let's use a term, by the rest of the community, right? They're afraid of putting something out there that's not completely baked. And so one of the things I did sort of like help ease that barrier is I said, guys, why don't you comment on the community itself? We want you to get engaged. We want you to give us feedback. We want you to start communicating with us here at the company. So tell us what's good, what's bad, what's not working, what needs a better usability flow, etc. about the community itself, and that gets them using the community to comment on the community, and it's an immediate sort of like click into the overall process without having them be worried about like, hey guys, I had this code and this is what I put together and this is what I was wondering. It's less of a barrier to that first entry, and it makes it a little bit more easy for everybody to sort of see how the process works.
Patrick, that's a great point. And I think also what's important is when they give the feedback to take action as well, because if you give feedback and nothing happens with it, that can backfire in your face as well.
Thanks for the feedback. We're never going to do that. No, it's a terrible idea. I cannot believe you had the audacity to put that on my community. Get out. Get out.
I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen.
But that's such a good point. Again, don't ask for their opinion or don't ask for their help if then you're not going to take it. If you don't end up taking their opinion or their advice or their suggestion, for God's sakes, just explain to them why you couldn't implement that, whatever it is. Or if you did take something that they delivered on board and it becomes part of your program, or you've managed to change something because of their advice, tell them, just call them out and say, what a fantastic thing you've done. You've just fixed something that is going to benefit everybody else in the community because you took the time to tell us. You get a gold star. You see?
We should be thankful for these people that come forward and want to help and give you opinions, give you your feedback. Because sometimes you'll say to people, oh, thanks for joining. It's nice to have you here. I'm glad that you came. And, if you need anything, let me know. But you feel like you kind of have to say that, and then somebody does let you know. You should welcome that, absolutely, because those people, they feel like they're invested in it, and their opinion matters. You have to remember there's a reason you've reached out to that person in the first place to join the community. So now let them kind of explain why, and end up helping other people probably.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that I got it from somebody I was working with. They were developing an app, and they were talking about all of the negative reviews that they keep getting, all the negative comments. And I just looked at them and I was like, hey, you realize that you're getting comments and they're negative comments because people are actually using it. Like, how about you just think about that fact? Someone is using it. They might not love it, but they're using it. If somebody's in your community and they're saying, I don't like this, guess what? They're still there. And it's like that sales thing. It's like every no is just a maybe to get to a yes. It's like that's what these negative comments are. They're telling you, hey, change this so I can enjoy it better. But remember the fact that you should be thankful that people are even in your community at all, or that people are using your product at all.
Yeah, I would follow up on that and say that it's an awesome point, and I think that it comes to the point of when you're getting negative feedback from someone, to just as you said, at least they're using it, right? They're in there, they're engaging with you, they're building that sort of incredibly hard to define and ROI engagement metric, which everybody wants, and everyone has no idea how to actually calculate. But at the same time, the people that are the loudest and that are complaining about things, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, because your response to them, the way that you handle the loudest, most complaining few, actually gives a really good example to the ones that aren't complaining. Because the ones that aren't complaining might have the exact same problem and they're just a little bit too shy to bring it up. And you fix it for the big guys, it fixes it for everybody else.
And that's huge. I mean, whenever you have any sort of, I don't want to say, whenever you have some sort of a meltdown in your community, it's an opportunity for you to show all the people that are just sort of sitting back and waiting to see what you're going to do. When you have that negative feedback come through and you do that, that's a great tool to bring those lurkers out too. The people that are there that are not commenting at all, they'll see it and they might be more apt to say something next time because they see that it actually gets handled.
Well, it's also an opportunity, too. Usually your detractors are your biggest opportunity to create really loyal customers or clients or whoever your stakeholders are. We've worked with a number of crisis management and folks, and it's really interesting. These types, any opportunity for engagement is an opportunity for you to build that relationship with them, which can only be a good thing down the road. And we had a client once share a case study, and I think it was titled something cute like "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer." And they told this story about someone who on their online forums was really negative and just always dragging them down. It was like a headache for the community manager. And when they built this program for their really active users, they invited them in to meet executives. And this person ended up being the most lovely person, and they found out that this person's hidden talent was finding these bugs in their product. And they ended up finding a positive way to work with that community member. And the entire relationship that they had with this person and even his online demeanor changed once they were able to identify, how to harness his energy in that community.
There's also an aspect of it's hard to be a trolley kind of person once you meet people in person.
Yeah.
You know, it makes it a lot harder. It's a lot easier when you're
Absolutely.
anonymous, you know. So that's actually a good tip.
That's actually my next book, is How to Troll Anonymously. So watch out for that on your shelf.
Well, you know what though? Trolls are not always bad. If it's done well, it can make things really interesting in your community. It's just when they become extremely disruptive and drive people away that it's bad. But
yeah, isn't it called like sympathetic trolling, right? If you do like some sympathetic trolling, you can actually keep lots of conversations going on. So
that's the next big thing, is trolls for hire. Trolls for hire.
I try to get trolls to throw terrible character aspirations on me, so that when the rest of the community like rallies to my defense, I get that really nice warm buzz feeling. No, he's not that bad. He's just sort of bad. He's kind of terrible. It's not.
He's our kind of terrible. He's our terrible.
Hillary laughed because I'm in her community. She's like, yeah, it's kind of spot on, actually.
He's our pain in the butt.
that's funny. So what?
So
what? This is not too far off from trolling, but what about feedback? I mean, how do you handle feedback? How do you engage with somebody? Kind of these new community members. Anybody?
Well, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the first thing you should do is thank that person, absolutely, and let them know that their opinion or idea, their piece of feedback is important, and let them know also if it's something that you've heard before, so that they don't think they're crazy or it's a far out idea or something. Let them know that you've heard it before, and as a matter of fact, maybe that's coming. That will be an addition to your service or your app, and so of course you should thank them.
Well, I think we kind of mentioned it before too. It's also acknowledging and taking steps with the feedback as well, because getting that feedback and not doing anything with it kind of could work against you getting future feedback from your community. So definitely taking a step and thanking them or making a change, positive or negative, it's a really great way to handle it.
I just want to say this to make Mark Market's head explode in the Twitter chat, but I think that you should take your feedback authentically and organically so that you can really have the most amount of synergy within your community.
Nice. That's
synergy.
Right there, Tom. Synergy.
Surely there's some low-hanging fruit you could put in there as well.
Guys, let's take the synergy offline. We'll reconnect. We want to have another meeting about that later on this week.
I really just want to streamline so that we can get the most ROI off of that, all right?
Can we gamify the synergy and the streamlining? Can we do all that at once?
We just need to make sure this can be scaled.
Oh my word, Mark's head just blew up. He was talking about how he was going to troll our stuff. I think we just did it all
yeah,
back.
I'm pretty sure we just trolled Mark back.
I'm getting Mark back too.
Yeah. Mark, we listened to your feedback. We listened to your feedback, Mark. We wanted to make sure it was tailored to you.
I think another important note I'd like to make about feedback is even when somebody gives you a bad suggestion, I think there's also a way to say like, hey, thanks. Here's why we don't do that, but I'll still make sure that that you're heard by whomever might want to hear that. Because I think just because they have a bad idea doesn't necessarily mean in their head obviously they think it's good, right?
We've sort of flirted with the whole Reddit up-down vote type scenario for those types of things, so that we're not the ones sort of breaking the news to them that it's a terrible idea. It's more like, so everybody else said that's dumb. We don't think it's dumb. We think we're glad you tried. But everyone else said no, so we're going to say no too. But thanks. But no, in all seriousness, you're right. There's no bad idea because, to Dom's point, at least they're engaged. They're throwing ideas at you, and if they're throwing a lot of them at you that aren't great, so what? You can ignore the bad ones just as well as you can promote the good ones. But I think it's more of a personal conversation at that point to say, listen, thank you so much for all this. You've given us literally thousands of ideas. You should probably get a hobby. And at the same time, there's a few of these that we want to actually dig into a little more and get a better understanding as to where you're coming from. And then you take those and you can craft something for the rest of the community to say, like, hey guys, this person had this awesome proto idea, and we'd like to flesh it out a little bit more and see if we can build some synergy with the rest of you to see if everybody else is on the same page, if anybody else is finding this in the same category, and what else you could build on this, what other suggestions you might have for it.
Patrick, you can also kind of build on that a little bit and let the community member actually put his ideas out to the community. If you feel, and this works best in a situation where you can kind of categorize his multiple suggestions. So let's say, you end up seeing, he's actually talking 15 suggestions about one category. And you could say, well, why don't you go out and ask the other community members if they feel the same? Because obviously this particular thing is a problem for whatever reason that you're seeing the need for us to improve it. So why don't we give you a platform, you can go out and ask the other community members if they also feel this way, and maybe you guys can work on some good suggestions together, or you can bring your suggestions to them and see what they think. There's no reason not to plug the community member back into the community in that type of situation, because it's their community. As Adrian said, it's their community. So let them decide how it should be.
One of the things too, you were talking about up-down voting. Well, I mean, not to plug vanilla, but we do have a reaction system, and that does come in handy where people can vote, how they feel, agree and disagree, and it comes in very handy for those kinds of scenarios as well, where there's feedback and the community can kind of have a voice in what they feel about the feedback as well.
Sorry, I was just coughing. Excuse me. So our last question, and literally, if there's been no questions today from Twitter, so everyone, if we still have a few more minutes, if you want to
come on Twitter,
come on Twitter, let's do this. Excuse me. Blaming on the millennials.
With the tweeting and the tumbling and all this.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
All right, so just Snapchat a Vine question over to us, all right? Let's go.
Maybe they're all using ICQ or something.
ICQ. Ooh.
Just post it over on my GeoCities website.
Whoa, that's a throwback. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's Throwback Friday right there. All right, what other tips do you have? So the last question just has to do about tips. Just that. Why don't we have everybody just kind of think about what tip you might have for onboarding, and just go ahead, fire away.
I think one thing I found really helpful is video. No one really mentioned that, but short videos can be really helpful as well. I found that always has been really helpful, just onboarding, giving people information in a really short way. Not those long 20-minute videos, but 2-minute videos. It's really something that can help a lot.
I'll add to that. One of the things that I would potentially add to that would be also take the time to respond as quickly as you can to a new comment from a new member. I would actually focus less on welcoming every new member and actually spending more time welcoming the new members who contribute early on. Because I actually think I saw this on Feverbee, where if you comment and respond within 5 hours, the likelihood of someone becoming an active member in your community goes up 100 to 200%.
Yeah, I saw the same thing.
As opposed to focusing on the workers or the people who haven't yet made a contribution.
That's a really good point. Responding as fast as possible is, if your community can handle that. I mean, if it's a huge community, then you're hoping that some of the other people can step up, moderators and other individuals on the team. But yeah, quick response is a really good one.
So the biggest tip I can give in terms of engaging a new member is to do your research on that person. Know as much about them, and to them it may just be, or to you it may just be 1 or 2 facts about them, but that could be a lot for that person. So do your research on them, know the communities that they engage in, kind of follow along in their digital footprint, as some people would know the term there, and kind of see what they like to talk about, and then engage with them on that, and then bring up that same topic maybe weeks later, and let them know you remembered that, and you know, it kind of makes them feel important again. And video too, yes, absolutely. I think I'd mentioned that first. And some people have even said it in the community here that they received a welcome video from me, and that's Movi. So I send them a welcome Movi, welcome them to the platform, or if it's a new user, or even if just a new follower or a new community member. Everyone gets a personalized video.
Lori, you'll get full credit for video. Sorry, I could
Yeah, it has to be me. It can't be you. I'm sorry.
I think my biggest tip would be to just be as welcoming as possible and just be really human about it. Be warm, be friendly. You know, we all should be natural extroverts. Being an extrovert should not be something that's unfamiliar to any of us. So as a community manager, being a natural extrovert, it should be quite easy for you to reach out to somebody and just be warm and welcoming. Going back to sort of the church model that Hillary was talking about, you know, you have church socials, Sunday coffees, whatever it might be. You don't have to be face-to-face with them. You can pick up the phone and call. I think that is one of the most important things I would say as well, going back to the point that Lori just made, which is just know a little bit about them, or take the time to get to know them. If you have that luxury, you might be running a community of 10,000 people, and that's just simply impossible. But that means that you can be as warm and welcoming as you can virtually, which is by video, which is by email, which is by Twitter or other social media channels, helping them raise their level of awareness out in the public eye, giving them a little bit of clout, a little bit of credence, a little bit of help, introducing them to other individuals. So all of that is 50 full-time jobs. It's not one full-time job, as we all know. But that's why we do it, because we love it.
You know, here's something that I think would be great, you know, for a new member is give them that OMG moment, right? Maybe you can't do it for everyone, but how can you take maybe a small conversation you had with a newer member, or something smart they posted somewhere, and how can you highlight them in front of everyone? And sort of saying, hey, look at this great thing that so-and-so did, because, you know, that's what's going to make, in my mind, you know, that's what makes people stick around. That's what makes them feel like they belong. And chances are they probably, you know, look at that community and look at even the community manager as somebody who's, you know, kind of this rock star authoritative voice. So it feels even cooler to be called out by somebody who maybe you're looking up to. So yeah, so give them OMG moments.
And for the record, I just want to let Twitter know, do your research. Is not stalking, okay? Stalking, you could just call that friend market research. That's what I call it. I'm great at friend market research. Very, very good. You know, I know exactly where everybody lives. Just kidding. All right, that got real creepy. I'm going to stop now.
I'm going to jump in and agree with Lori. I think that in my particular experience, and I was making jokes about this before, but in my experience, because I'm running customer communities, and usually it's externally facing for my company, so it's a lot of engaged customer people. Those sort of research moments are actually really important to craft something for that person. So if you know someone coming in has these products, or if you know someone coming in is interested in these categories, you can actually sort of craft something for them directly, and make sure they're starting on that perfect right foot when they land. So doing the research is actually really really important. Also, we're the stewards of a seventh grade dance for the most part, right? You've got members along one wall, and you got members, and we're like, come on guys, come on, you gotta come on, right? So being the sort of social chair and walking people back and forth and leaving room for the Holy Ghost in some cases, that itself is sort of our gig. And if you can do that by knowing these people like these specific things, or they have these common interests, and in that case, it actually is really helpful to do a little research.
So actually, oh, go ahead, Hillary.
I was just going to say I haven't gone yet. I guess my my top tip would be creating that. I'll build off Christy's cultivating a culture of warmth and welcome. You're in charge of sort of overseeing that culture, but in your processes, balance out things that scale and those personal touches. And if you can get that right balance, you won't be wasting all your time and running around trying to do all those person-to-person things. But if you can figure out a way to scale and do a nice personal touch, I think you'll win.
So here's a quick question that we have time for. Came in from Sarah. She says, best advice on how to draw out lurkers. Because I'm guessing, especially some new community members, I would say there's probably a high rate of people who join to check things out, just lurking around. How do you draw them out, guys?
Bribes. I'm serious. Bribes. Bribe them. Contests, engagement pieces. There's people that are not going to post unless it's somehow in their self-interest, and if they're just investigating, they're not going to post. They're just going to sort of be like, oh yeah, I'll check it out. But if you make something concretely real to them, and for some reason our industry seems to love the idea of giving away iPads. It's like this cottage industry of just giving those away. That sort of stuff, it brings it out. You might not get the most valued engagement from some of them, but if you can get 30% of them to take a look or to engage or to leave a comment, then at least your own numbers look good, and you might hit a goal so you can buy yourself an iPad. There, 2 cents.
That's a great point, but I'd almost say you're always going to have lurkers in your community, and instead of spending all of your time trying to get the lurkers to participate, instead focus a little bit more on those people who are making their first contribution, their first or second contribution, and those are the ones that, with the proper response time, you're going to be able, and with the proper community involvement, you're going to get those people to be 10 times more active than any lurker. Agree? Disagree?
Agree. I mean, I definitely, I think that's a big thing. I think that it's really easy as well to call out the lurkers, like just straight up say, hey, I know you guys are out there.
Hey, jerks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just strong arm them. But you just call them out and say, hey, I know you guys are out there. Come on in. The water's fine. It's going to be okay. Just let me know. And you don't have to spend all your time there. It's like spending your time trying to convince somebody to go out on a date with you. If they don't want to, they're not going to. You don't have to worry about courting them. Pay attention to the ones that actually care about you.
And it's true, though. They'll come when they come. I mean, I have one community where there was a lurker for 3 years, and he made his first comment like last week. And it was just something that happened to catch his fancy, and he just joined. I was like, hey, this guy's been in the community for 3 years, and all of a sudden his first comment. And everyone's like, hey, welcome, and it was a great experience, and now he's actually a little bit more active in the community. So, I mean, that's also important as well, to pay attention to see when they joined and their first comment, and, make it more comfortable for those people to come out of the woodwork as well.
Awesome. Well, that's all we have time for today, guys. I really appreciate all of your great thoughts, and I'm certain this is going to make a great recap, and I'll definitely be going back and listening to it again. Next week, Sherry will be back with us. I think she's running an event today. But next week we're going to talk influencers. So it's actually called Let's Talk Influencers. So if you have something to say about that, or you think maybe you're an expert or a guru on it, please go to mycmgr.com, click on participate, tell us that you are interested. I think we're definitely looking for some more people for the show. So until then, see you next Friday, and have a great weekend, everybody.
See you later, guys.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.